I'll never forget the sound the crowd made when I said those 4 words. Not anger, not confusion, just that thin, brittle silence people make when they suddenly realize they've been cheering for the wrong man. Our company's annual spring rooftop party was in full swing. Music was blasting, drinks were flowing, and the CEO, hair lacquered, suit tailored too tight, was lifting a champagne glass with the confidence of a man used to buying applause. To Caleb, he announced, beaming like a TV host, a flawless quarter, a well-earned $32,000 performance bonus. People cheered. Someone shouted for me to buy the next round. A few sales guys gave me high fives. I didn't smile. I didn't nod. I didn't even blink. I just said it. I never received it. The corked energy evaporated. Glasses lowered mid-air. A couple of interns froze like mannequins. The CFO stiffened hard enough to make his Rolex clatter against his glass. The HR director coughed like she'd inhaled confetti instead of shrimp. The CEO chuckled. Fake, polished, and nervous around the edges. Modest as always. It's already in the system. I met his eyes. I checked. It's not. That was it. No yelling. No scene. No drama. I simply set my champagne down, untouched, and walked off the rooftop. Leave the theatrics to executives. Quiet works better than noise. And silence is a weapon if you know how to use it. I didn't cry in my car. I didn't hurl things around my apartment. I made a sandwich, opened my laptop, and unlocked a private folder I'd labeled months earlier. In case they get stupid. Inside were 20-something files, screenshots, approval logs, vendor payments, budget reallocations, and a contract clause I had personally added 3 years prior. I had learned long ago that power doesn't belong to the loudest person in the room. It belongs to the one who anticipates where the cracks will form. 3 months earlier, I'd requested a copy of my original employment contract for tax reasons. Legal sent it without thinking. They always do when something sounds boring. And deep in that contract was an overlooked clause I'd slipped in during a chaotic restructuring year, Clause 7.4. A clause no one read. A clause the CEO signed absent-mindedly during a lunch meeting. A clause that stated, if a performance bonus is not dispersed within 10 business days of milestone confirmation, the employee may activate proprietary protection protocols. Simple, clean, lethal. And I had written those protocols myself. So that night, I sent one email to HR. No attachments. No accusations. Subject, Clause 7.4, Notice of Invocation. Then I closed my laptop and went to bed. I'd planted a domino. Monday would be the fall. The office looked normal, fake plants, glass walls, tired faces. But the energy? Different. You can feel fear if you've worked in corporate long enough. It sits in the air like humidity. By 9 a.m., HR had already visited my desk twice. The director wore the same sparkly blouse from the rooftop party, though it looked less glamorous and more panic-sweaty now. Probably a payroll glitch, she chirped, way too bright. The new system is quirky. Sure, I said. Quirky. At 10:03 a.m., legal emailed me. Contract review urgent. 10:30 a.m. Small conference room. Just you and me. Perfect. I walked in with a leather folder and the calm of a man who'd been slighted one time too many. The lead corporate attorney waited inside, posture tight, lips pressed into a line thin enough to slice paper. She held my contract, page 7 marked with a pink tab. She read the clause aloud. Her voice faltered halfway through, right where the consequences kicked in. You activated this yesterday? She whispered. Yes. And the protocols. They're layered, I said. Authentication tokens expired. Encryption keys rotated. System access reassigned. Operations reliant on my frameworks are now locked behind my authorization. She paled. You're telling me every system you built needs to be unlocked manually after my bonus is fulfilled. That's when the CEO barged into the room like a man auditioning for the role of confident leader. Breath loud, shake bottle in hand. This is ridiculous, he scoffed. You're shutting down systems over a technicality? No, the attorney said quietly. He's authorized. You signed this. You implemented this. He grabbed the contract, flipped through pages, stopped at the clause, and stared like he'd just discovered his signature on a ransom note. I thought that was negotiable language. It's not, I said. He puffed up. I'll just push your bonus through today. That would constitute retroactive coercion. Clause 7.4 prohibits that. The attorney nodded grimly. It would look like bribery. Illegal bribery. He sank into a chair. Finally quiet. HR tried damage control. Legal tried delay tactics. The CFO tried avoidance, ducking into stairwells whenever I walked by. They didn't understand something fundamental. My calm wasn't surrender. It was strategy. For years, I'd watched executives reward themselves while squeezing departments dry. I'd watched colleagues blamed for accounting mistakes they didn't make. I'd watched performance bonuses reallocated whenever someone higher up wanted a weekend trip or a pet project. So I started keeping logs. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I did. I trusted them to cover for each other. In my apartment that Tuesday night, I combed through old logs again. 3 C-suite payouts jumped out, approved on the same day, tagged as discretionary realignments, funded by bonus pools from teams that had earned them. 1 was mine. 2 belonged to executives who didn't even meet their targets. Then there was a 4th, a payout to a contractor who didn't exist. No ID, no onboarding, no payroll record, just a wire transfer to an out-of-state account. The approval signature? The CFO. So on Wednesday, at a cafe on Colfax, behind a VPN and a fresh encrypted email, I sent a simple, anonymous message to the board's audit committee. No threats, no emotion, just breadcrumbs. By the time I returned to the office, the silence was different. Tighter, sharper, dangerous. The CEO walked past me, smiling like a hostage reading a ransom script. Everything all right, Caleb? Everything's in motion. On Thursday, I approached the lead attorney's office. Got 5 minutes? I asked. She nodded. No small talk. No fake politeness. She sensed the storm. I closed her door and placed a black folder on her desk. Privileged internal counsel only. It stays between us until Monday, I said. But you should read it before then. Inside was a timeline, then screenshots, then approval chains, then mismatched signatures, then wire transfers to accounts not tied to employee IDs, and finally a red tab. Those have SEC implications, I said. Unreported executive compensation, routed outside payroll, all pulled from employee bonus pools. She stared at me with the expression of someone who'd walked into a room expecting a paper cut and stepped on a landmine instead. What do you want? She whispered. I want the company protected, and I want my terms respected. She didn't open the folder again. She kept it beside her like a live grenade. Friday morning felt like Judgment Day. The invitation arrived at 8:32 a.m. Emergency Board Review, Executive Session. Conference Room A. 10 a.m. Attendees included every board member, external counsel, the attorney, and me. Not the CEO, not the CFO. The meeting lasted 47 minutes. I presented my terms with the same tone I used when explaining system diagrams. Measured, calm, undeniable. Restitution. The unpaid bonus plus contractual penalties. Licensing fee. Compensation for 18 years of proprietary frameworks. Terminations. CEO and CFO for cause. Audit. Full review of all bonuses for the past 3 years. Transition. I would unlock and transfer documentation once all terms were completed. The board voted unanimously. Unanimously. The CEO was escorted out that afternoon. The CFO resigned. HR gave 2 weeks' notice. My bank pinged at 5:02 p.m. Wire transfer confirmed. $330,000. At 6 p.m., I unlocked every system. Not with bitterness. With closure. On Monday, after 18 years, I packed up my desk. People nodded at me with a quiet sort of respect. The kind you give someone who kept the lights on far longer than anyone realized. I walked to the parking garage, box in hand. That's where the former CEO tried to corner me. He shouted something, rage, excuses, who knows. Security stopped him halfway across the concrete. That's the thing about men like him. They don't see consequences until they're already drowning in them. I drove home, opened a beer, and sat on my balcony, watching the Denver skyline shift from orange to navy. My phone buzzed with messages from recruiters, remote roles, senior positions, companies that wanted someone steady, not someone flashy. Revenge doesn't always need fire. Sometimes it just needs precision. Sometimes the best revenge is showing them how much they needed you, and then walking away on your own terms. Last I heard, their IPO was delayed. Their systems still glitch. They're trying to rebuild what I built. Good luck with that.